Good morning, YouTube. April and I just watched both versions of Roadhouse, 1989 and 2014 back-to-back. There's actually a Roadhouse 2 in the middle of that, nobody saw that in 2006. But for the sake of this video, we are going to compare with some facts and our hot takes on the two Roadhouse movies and how they stack up. You are a big fan of the original, a massive fan, as I discovered.
Yeah, I was going to say, we don't even need to talk about it. This could be the end of the video because the new one is absolute, garbage, wasn't into it at all.
It was good.
That's it. That's all you need to know, hands down.
Jake Gyllenhaal did a good job. It was totally different from the original. They weren't trying to really spoof it or copy it. They did their own take, and I thought it was very entertaining. Was it really intelligent? No, but neither was the original Roadhouse.
The original Roadhouse was so intelligent and deep and memorable and moving and Swayze, so romantic.
They're
and just
both
the
dumb
way that he's with the
popcorn
doctor
movies.
And
we can debate
the
difference a little bit later. We can debate the differences, but let's just stick to the facts right now because apparently this is Amazon's biggest movie release ever.
Why?
They said that 50 or 60 million households streamed the new Roadhouse with Gyllenhaal. In their homes. And they chose not to release it into theaters, and that probably cost them a lot of money, like a lot of money. Because if it were, say, two people at home watching it, and they went to the theater times 50 million, $10 a ticket, they would be beating out Dune or some other huge movies right now.
Well, that's true. Dune did well, but people don't really go to the movie theater as much as they used to. So would it have done as well? I don't know. Who knows?
I mean, even if it was just the one person in that 50 million households, let's say, it still would have been a huge, majorly profitable movie.
Have you ever gone to a movie by yourself?
Yes.
You did?
All the time, yes.
By yourself?
Yes.
Is it weird?
No, it's fine. I mean, you're sitting alone in a dark room, it's fine.
Do you find the other person that's alone too and make awkward eye contact with them?
No, it's not weird. But what is interesting is the payday. So since they chose to do all streaming only, Jake Gyllenhaal, the director, all this, they don't get a share of the box office because there's no box office. So that meant their budget was an extra $25 million. $60 million to shoot the movie, and then a $25 million bonus on top to distribute it. But the director was so angry that he's boycotting the movie. And this is a big director. His name is Doug Liman. And so he directed The Bourne Identity and The Edge of Tomorrow. So he's done some big movies. He was very mad that this didn't get a theatrical release, even though it was an extra, I'm not sure how much extra he got of that $25 million, but probably a good chunk because it was streaming only. So he was very, very angry about it. One thing, though, that wouldn't make that director angry is shopping for a car on Auto Tempest, the best place to search for a used car online, as it combines all the major listing sites into one search. And thanks to Auto Tempest for sponsoring this video, and good morning, YouTube. So if he wanted a retro throwback, let's say he wanted a Mercedes 560 SEC, just like Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse, you can search across the nation on all the major listing sites, all populating on Auto Tempest, and you can see there are some beautiful examples. Wow, $69,000 for one with 29,000 miles, one for $84,000 that has an AMG body kit. But Auto Tempest looks in all the nooks and crannies of the internet you might not even think of to find a hard to find car like a nice 560 SEC. And if you want to get even more picky, see on a more common car and search by color, search by options, by transmission, certain number of cylinders, Auto Tempest does that. So the next time you're searching for a car, be sure to use Auto Tempest. And if you know someone shopping for a used car online and they want to find the best deal, tell them about Auto Tempest. It is linked below. Auto Tempest, all the cars, one search.
So they used that extra $25 million for what? What is in that movie? What is added to that movie? What, just the extra oil that they use to oil up the guys fighting in it?
No, this is all the after part where they make the profits, because usually the movie star like Jake Gyllenhaal signs on and he gets a payday based on the box office and the pay for actually doing the work. And same with everybody else involved, with the producers, the director, and all that. This is just a set amount of money. So obviously, they may have not had as much confidence in the box office performance of this movie, so they took the easy $25 million payday. But in retrospect, it was probably a mistake because people are loving this movie, except April, apparently.
Well, I don't, like the beginning of it, it's like the bar owner, she's like, okay, I need to set up the movie, so I'm just going to list everything awkwardly in the intro of this movie to take care of all this homework.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it is just
It's so they could get to the fights as soon as possible.
which they do.
Yeah.
And then not Mahomes. What was his name?
Conor McGregor?
No, the singer in the beginning.
Oh, Post Malone, you mean?
Post Malone.
Yes.
Like, okay, it was cool to see him. And I liked that Post Malone wasn't, not that he's like overweight or anything, but he's not like worried about being all cut and swole. He's just very real. And I feel like he really got into those like fighting and just dirty kind of like Fight Club style fighting, and like it was cool to see him. Cool to see Conor McGregor. My question is, does Conor McGregor walk like that in real life? Because he can't even fit through the door. It's like every guy that makes fun of a bodybuilder because they're like, oh yeah, I can't even fit through the door. Like,
well,
he really can't.
He has a strut. Most certainly.
He has a huge strut. He takes up so much room. And then there's like all these psychological things where like guys that take up a lot of room are the alpha male. So I'm like, does Conor McGregor like actually think like I better sit with my arms like this so I can be the alpha at all times?
Well,
like,
for his big movie debut, he did pretty well. And I think he was fun as a villain. It was entertaining. I liked his performance.
I liked him.
But in comparison to the original Roadhouse, we're talking about box office. It was $60 million in 1989, and that was on a $15 million budget.
Wow.
So they made a ton. I mean, obviously, Roadhouse is a cult classic, but that was a huge box office for, kind of a B movie, sort of like, bar fighting and a lot of nudity. That was one thing I noticed between the old one and the new one. There was butt shots and there's boobs everywhere. There was even like a boob off of who has the nicest boobs in one scene.
Like
so
guy butt shots where like, I don't know, and I don't want to speak for all girls, but like we're not really into guys' butts like you think. And so I don't know why you need to have this like gratuitous butt shot all the time. There was a lot of nudity.
Right.
In both of them.
Yeah, so back to non-nude facts, I suppose.
Boring.
The one that kind of blew my mind is Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
He is 43 years old when this Roadhouse has come out.
Okay.
Sam Elliott, the old man, the dad, sort of the mentor for Patrick Swayze. He's all gray and old, grizzled and, broken down. He's 44 when the 1989 Roadhouse came out. So they were like...
Are you sure?
Yes.
No, you're not.
Yes. It's just people who look very different in the 80s, like, whatever they do in Hollywood to make people not age.
Who's 44? Are you, you fact-checked this?
Yes, they were a year
it's
apart.
Not some AI article?
Nope.
What?
They were a year apart.
What?
Sam Elliott, born in 1944, 1989 when it came out, so actually it was filmed the year before.
Right.
And Jake Gyllenhaal, born in 1980.
Crazy. Yeah. That's insane. That's literally absolutely insane. Jake Gyllenhaal, though, I think Jake did a fantastic job. So I don't want to completely dog the movie because he did a great job. Conor McGregor, he's a little green at acting, but he fully committed. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't like, oh, that might be silly. Like, I'm trying to be cool, so I don't want to go there. He went there like full tilt, 100%. And so I totally appreciate that. Other than that, the story was just very watered down and just not believable. Not that any of either movies are believable, but it was just, I can't believe that you like it. That's what I'm trying to say. It was very
enjoyable. The fighting was very good. We were supposed to debate this at the end, but you just can't help yourself and you keep kind of injecting in.
Sorry. Continue with your facts. Continue.
Let's get to the vehicles. All right?
Exactly.
So, in the new Roadhouse,
right.
It's all about boats because it's in the Florida Keys.
Right.
In the original Roadhouse, it's cars because it takes place outside of Kansas City, Missouri. But in the new Roadhouse, in the Florida Keys, where there were boats because there were none in Kansas City, Missouri, it was all land, the Yamaha 255X, $115,000. That's the boat they blew up in the movie.
That flew on to the restaurant and flipped over?
No, that was a different one.
Okay.
This is the one that he used to blow up the bad man's catamaran, basically.
Okay.
And that was a pretty cool scene. There's cool action shots. Yeah, the story's a little weak, but whatever. I mean, it's about the fun and the action and the fighting and all that stuff. It was all good. But obviously, the old Roadhouse is better when it comes to vehicles. And this is the one that got away from me.
The worst decision of your life.
So 10 years ago, at a collector car auction, they were selling one of the two 560 SECs from 1987 that were used in the film Roadhouse. Crystal blue, Lawrencer wheels. This one had been driven to over 100,000 miles. And I thought it was going to go for a lot more money, so I did not sign up and do it. And then I checked, right after the auction, and it sold for $7,000.
The worst decision, the worst car that ever got away was this car.
Right.
Like, if you would have had this Mercedes, I would have moved to Kansas a long time ago.
There were two 560s used for the movie.
Yeah.
Swayze got one.
Right.
The producer of the movie got the other. This was the producer's car. But they were
Right.
both screen-used cars. And then there was a third one, if you look really close in the shot of when he uses this Mercedes to, like, have the big final showdown where he crashes the car and it explodes
yeah.
into the front lawn and all that stuff to start the final, like, I'm going to kill everybody. They used an older Mercedes coupe. They used one from the early to mid 80s because it has the ribbing on it. So instead of a 560, it's like a 380 or 500. They did that to
Right.
save money, obviously, and bought a more used Mercedes.
Right. But you let that one slip right through your fingers.
Yeah.
Oh, that kills me.
So the deaths, obviously the most violent death in the original Roadhouse is ripping people's throats out.
Yes.
Swayze gets mad and he just,
Yes.
I have your throat in my hand.
It's intense.
And you are dead.
It's intense.
So-
Animalistic.
Gyllenhaal did that with just like a throat punch.
Right.
But the most violent death in Roadhouse, and sorry this is spoilers, the new Roadhouse, if you haven't seen it yet, but it is a crocodile-involved death. And it seemed pretty outlandish, seemed pretty ridiculous.
Very outlandish.
Where the bad guy gets thrown in the water and then eaten or whatever.
Yeah.
But according to the Orlando Sentinel, Florida newspaper,
Right.
there have been a lot of deaths with alligators and crocodiles. Since 1948, over 450 bites,
Right.
and 30 of them were fatal.
Ooh.
Two
okay.
of them were bad guys running from the police, and they'd go into the swamp and they'd get eaten by an alligator or a crocodile
That
in
is
Florida.
terrifying.
So it is pretty rare, obviously, but
Right.
it's not out of the realm of insanity.
So you're saying the new Roadhouse is believable then?
it could happen.
It could happen.
It could happen in Florida. So we all know that Patrick Swayze died, sadly. He died way too young of pancreatic
Right.
cancer. But his nemesis in the movie,
Mm-hmm.
Brad Wesley, that actor, he died just a few years later of pancreatic cancer as well. So it's
that
just a
wild?
terrible thing.
Yeah.
It's such a low survival rate with that and just so serious. Like Alex Trebek, I mean, a lot of people, I know one personally that died of pancreatic cancer. And
Right.
it's a tough one. It's really sad. But the real nemesis for Swayze back in 1989 when he's in his prime was not Brad Wesley. It was his hairdo.
What? The mullet?
He hated the mullet. He called it the bane of my existence.
He literally said that?
Yes.
The mullet is amazing. Like, if you sported that right now, I'd be drooling because it's like, I think it's cool because it's sexy, because it's like not cool, and then it makes you cool because you have it and you don't care what other people think, and so there's that like swagger that you have when you're rocking a mullet. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think it would have required constant work to keep it perfectly poofed and things.
Right.
It's probably very annoying. I had a mullet when I was a young child in
Yeah.
the 80s. My dad had it and the big, Tom Selleck mustache.
Right.
Yeah, so the mullet is a thing. I don't remember the maintenance of it, but
Right.
it looked like his was kind of permed and puffed and
Yeah, it
was
was
probably a pain in the butt to keep going.
Floofed and fluffed correctly. You forgot about one like really, really important car though in the original Roadhouse.
Oh, the Rivieras?
Oh yeah, the
Yes.
65 Riviera with the clamshell headlights. Like,
There's two, actually. So there's a 64
Right, in the
and a
beginning.
65. So he
Okay.
throws the keys over to one and then gets a new one. Yes.
amazing cars.
Pretty valuable car today, considering he was buying for a few $100s as a hoopty, where they're saying, oh, to replace the windshield would cost more than this heap of junk's worth for like a nailhead V8 60s Riviera. It sounds crazy.
Yeah.
But back then they were just cheap used cars.
Right. Well, and then in the new Roadhouse, Gyllenhaal's car that got hit by a train, like cracked up. I feel like that was just a fake movie car. Like I couldn't really identify what it was.
It
Maybe
has that
someone
iconic
knows.
grille. I want to say it was like a Mopar sedan of the late 70s,
But
early 80s.
a lot of movie cars, they'll kind of piece together because, sometimes car makers don't want to commit to having their brand in a scene for some reason, or, the movie doesn't want to give a certain brand love just because they're not paying them to. So then they'll
Right.
make a generic car. And right when I saw that, I'm like, I couldn't identify it. I'm like, that was just a throwaway to me because I was so excited to see what Dalton was going to be driving.
Right.
And that was a big letdown.
But the new one, it's all about boats in the Florida Keys.
Right.
So the cars weren't really a thing there. But they had the same name, obviously, Dalton. And they had lots of action and fightings and things. And both actors in both movies got hurt. pretty badly.
Really?
So Patrick Swayze was supposed to be hit by a prop log, and when the guy picked it up and swung and hit him, it was not a prop log, it was a real one.
What?
And I think it hit his head, really hurt him. And with Jake Gyllenhaal, it was actually broken glass. His hand got cut up really bad and broken glass embedded, and he got a staph infection. His whole arm swole up, and well, more than his normal swole. And he was out for a week. He was able to finish the scene, but then had to get this treated, obviously. So a very action-packed, dangerous movie. And now we can debate.
Now,
if you want to. If you are ready now.
Yes,
clearly
sir.
you were very ready before to debate which one's better.
I mean, it just goes without saying the original Roadhouse is just way better, more superior. No one can top Patrick Swayze. Gyllenhaal's a great actor, and he did a fantastic job. Just call it a different movie. Don't call it Roadhouse. Call it something else, because I wouldn't loop that in. They tried too hard to kind of pepper in all the Roadhouse vibes of it, and it wasn't working. It was just a completely different movie.
I like both. I would give a nod to the earlier one for a lot of reasons. I think that the characters were better developed and more interesting, but the fight scenes in the new one and the way it's shot is better. The action is better.
Because they were oiled up?
No, because I think the director did a great job, and the choreography between Gyllenhaal and Conor McGregor was fantastic. It was the most realistic fighting scenes, like, I mean, other than like how the fights happen, where like in the new one somebody yells, "Fight!" or "Bar fight!" and then they start fighting, and that was pretty ridiculous. But other than that, like, the fights themselves look really cool,
the camera
really
was
real.
Cool, and it almost looks like there was some CGI to it, or maybe just different camera.
Well, they were doing POV kind of, where it was.
When they would land a punch, like 2 seconds before, it almost sped up. That punch almost sped up in a cool, interesting way. Like back in the day with old movies, sometimes they would speed up running scenes to make them look more intense and faster. And that's what I felt like they were doing in the fight scenes in this new Roadhouse, is they were kind of playing with that camera speed and different things. So it was a different look, which I appreciated. Of course, you have Conor McGregor, who's a professional, obviously, jiu-jitsu, boxing.
Yes, but he actually had to pull his punches this time. He couldn't actually hit Jake Gyllenhaal. So it's a different thing for him. But I think the fighting and the action was better in this movie. The story better in the 1989 movie, and the characters a little bit. But it's still no masterpiece.
Right.
You know, at least, with this new one, they got that right. And they weren't just totally rebooting and copycatting, like, rebooting Spider-Man over and over again, the Fantastic Four, or whatever, whatever reboots all the stupid movies. They didn't try and just sort of copy it. They did a different take, a different setting, a different reason why Dalton has ended up in this situation that he's in, where he's needing to go to work in the Roadhouse. It's very different, and I like that they didn't try to copy that much.
Right. I don't know. I agree with you that it was interesting to watch. I wasn't falling asleep, but Swayze is just so intense in that love story, and the way that he grabs the doctor and he's all passionate and he's just like, and it's just like heating up and intense, and like there was no love story in the new Roadhouse.
Apparently, I need to start doing Tai Chi and grow a mullet.
That's good advice. Ooh,
Thank you so much for watching.